NC Pork, good for the plate, great for the state. Welcome into Bold North State Football Daily, right here on the North Carolina Sports Network, presented by NC Pork, the official flavor of football weekends all across North Carolina. Before we dive into this week's show, make sure you like, share, and follow and subscribe to the North Carolina Sports Network here on YouTube, X, Facebook, and Instagram, and wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Google Play, wherever they're giving out the podcast, we will be right there at the NC Sports Net. And for in-depth journalism, storytelling, and commentary, make sure you visit our website, ncsportsnetwork.com, where David Glenn and our editorial team are delivering first-class, experience-driven coverage of sports all across North Carolina and beyond. Because here at the North Carolina Sports Network, experience matters. Our staff has over 130 years of experience working inside college and pro sports, and we bring that to you each week right here on these shows. And in football season, it is Bold North State Football Daily. And fellas, we are coming off a weekend that gave us everything: a walk-off win, a tough road loss, and a heartbreak decided by inches. Who's going to take us through this week's carousel of fun? Well, we'll start up and to the right. He is the defensive coordinator of the North Carolina Sports Network, a Guilford County native, former Elon Fighting Christian, a 1996 national champion with the Florida Gators. We're talking about the indomitable one, the great Jim Collins. And up and to the left, he is widely regarded as the greatest recruiter in the history of college football, a Rose Bowl team captain with the Fighting Illini in Illinois, an NFL vet, former head coach at Minnesota, and interim head coach at Charlotte, the 2013 national champion assistant at Florida State. He is Tim Brewster. And as we take a look inside the old crystal ball, we have to look back before we look forward. And across this past weekend, the top 25 is a mess. The quarterback position is in flux at a lot of places around the nation, and the coaching rumors are accelerating. We're almost to the point to where it's November football, where seasons are made or lost. And Coach Collins, what's one national result that made you stop and say, hey, okay?
Well, the interesting thing is, I don't know that it was a single game this weekend, but the team that has caught my attention as much as anybody is Vanderbilt University. They have a big win over Missouri, and it came down to the very end, and an inches play in that game also. But I have to say Vanderbilt, with their 27-year-old quarterback, that is absolutely turned that program around. But I'm going to share you an interesting stat with you about the Southeastern Conference that I heard from former Florida receiver Chris Doering today. Of the 7 SEC games played last Saturday, 6 of the 7 were won by the visiting team, if you can believe that, in the Southeastern Conference. That was an absolutely shocking statistic to me. Vandy was the only home team to win in the league last weekend in the SEC. But Vanderbilt would be my choice, Mike.
They have really caught America's imagination. Clark Lee doing a great job as the coach of the Commodores there. And Brew, man, I tell you, it's November where culture matters most, and teams around the country, some of them are showing you that they might have something still left to unveil here over the second half of the season, and some of them are running out of gas. Who caught your attention this past weekend?
Mike and Jim, the team that I was really kind of blown away by was Texas A&M, the Aggies. The Aggies on Saturday night went into Baton Rouge, Saturday night football, playing them Tigers. And I tell you what, I was so impressed. I mean, the first half, the first 30 minutes, they were, getting involved, getting into the game, but the second half, holy cow. Marcel Reed, the quarterback, I mean, what a dynamic football player. And I'm just going to tell you guys, I can't imagine there being another head football coach in America doing a better job with his team right now than Mike Elko is.
It's been amazing. What he did at Duke was spectacular, and he's just kept that momentum rolling forward there at Texas A&M. Now, of course, the Aggies did dispatch of LSU in Baton Rouge on Saturday night, and then on Sunday, LSU dispatched of Brian Kelly. He was no longer the head coach of the Bayou Bengals. And later on in today's show, we're going to talk about the coaching vacancies and which one is the best job, which one is a trap job, and which could be a sleeper gold mine job out there for the coaches. We will preview all of the games coming up this coming weekend, starting Friday night in Syracuse, and then Saturday night under the lights as North Carolina opens the week and NC State closes it out with a big opportunity against Georgia Tech. And our Old North State tailgate will be at NC State Georgia Tech football this weekend. Stop is always a good time whenever we can be outside of Carter Finley, and David Glenn and myself will be there. Let's go over to the Twin Cities down in Forsyth County and talk about the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest winners over the weekend, 13-12 over SMU. Rhett Lashley coming out of the middle of North Carolina with his first ever ACC loss. And the story here, it was how Wake Forest just hung in there, and then they do it with a 50-yard walk-off Connor Calvert field goal to beat the Mustangs. Man, Jake Dickert has some things going right now, very strong for the old gold and black. This was belief, this was poise, this was Jake's identity taking root and brew. I like this branding that Coach Dickert uses. He says it's built in the dark because, as you know, you built a lot of programs over the years. It's not necessarily what's happening in plain view. It's the stuff behind the scenes that really can make the difference in a culture like Dickert's taking early hold in Winston-Salem with Wake Forest.
You know, Mike, Jake is doing an amazing job in a very short period of time. And I asked you the question, and I think I said the same thing to Jim is, doesn't it seem like a whole bunch of good football coaches trained at Washington State University? It's just for whatever. I may be off base. I don't think I am, but going back to Dennis Erickson and all the guys that have come through, and Dickert is just his football team. You're not going to be fancy. You're not going to be a lot of Showtime type stuff, but we're going to do things correctly. We're going to create some explosive plays. We're going to play defense. We're going to run the football. And holy cow, what a big win of SMU and Rhett Lashley. Big time.
Coach Collins' Wake's defense held SMU to only 246 total yards. That's structure and discipline. What clicked defensively for the Demon Deacons? What has them starting to be a pretty complete football team?
Well, you just said two key words, and those two key words are structure and discipline, and the ability to be in the right place at the right time, fit gaps correctly, know who you're spilling or who you're boxing the ball to. And some of you fans out there may not understand what that is, but it's directing the ball to the proper defender that may be unblocked to be able to stop a running play. It's making plays in the open field on passes, not giving up yards after catch, and it's keeping the ball in front of you and not giving up big plays. But when they're playing winning defense now. SMU was 4 of 17 on third down. I mean, that's great defense. They were 0 for 1 on fourth down, 246 total yards and only 75 yards rushing, 2.7 yards per rush. And Wake forced 3 turnovers and had 8 tackles for losses. That's how you win games on defense, especially against a team like SMU, who has an explosive offense with Rhett Lashley, so that's how they're doing it. They're doing it with toughness. They're doing it with players that are committed to Wake Forest. Because let's face it, they don't have the best players in this league, and they certainly don't have the best players in this country. They're doing it because their players have bought into a system and they're playing the system to perfection at this point in time. So it will be interesting to see where this team goes down the road as we continue into the great days of November, because we all remember November.
Wake Forest heads into your old stomping grounds, Tim, to Florida State on Saturday night at 7:30. What does it look like to take belief on the road into a heavyweight environment?
What Wake's got to do is they've got to take advantage of an extremely fragile Florida State football team. I think that Florida State right now is on the edge where, either they're going to fall off the cliff or they're going to battle their tails off to hang in there and get a win against a team that they should probably beat, that they should probably win against. But right now, it looks to me like Wake Forest is an extremely confident football team. Jake Dickert has instilled some real confidence. And the reason why they've got confidence is because Jim, the stuff that Jim rattled off there about that defense, you talk about recipe to win. I mean, holy cow. They're doing everything that you're supposed to do to win football games. It'll be interesting to me to see, does the Seminole Nation show up and really get behind this football team to go win a game that, I mean, we've said there was a must game last week, and they played Stanford at Stanford and got beat. I can't imagine there being a bigger game right now for Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles than Wake Forest coming into town this week.
I don't want to turn into the cliche guy, and but our game is about cliches, and it's about what I'm going to say now. Both of these teams need to get off to a fast start. Wake Forest going into Doak Campbell Stadium needs to start fast, because if they do start fast, you've got a fragile team in the Seminoles right now. If you can get them reeling early, then I think the Demon Deacons have a good shot to go into Doak Campbell and win. If Florida State gets off to a good start and gains some confidence, then it could be turned into an interesting game. It could turn into how well can the Wake Forest defense play. But here's something that I read earlier today that may be a huge factor in this game. Is if the Florida State quarterback is not healthy and does not play, then that would be a huge difference in this game. And I've heard that he's a little banged up right now and may not be practicing and some things like that. So that would make this game even more interesting for the Noles and the Demon Deacons.
Guys, here we are at the end of October, and you're hearing of a lot of players that are banged up right now, and maybe they're not going to play this game or not going to play that game. How much of that is actual injuries, and how much of that brew in this day and age of NIL football and transferring and this and that and the other is gamesmanship by athletes and their crews behind the scenes?
There's gamesmanship involved in this, but make no mistake about it. We're at the point in the year where nobody's fully healthy. I mean, everybody's got banged. They're banged up. They're beat up, and you know what? You just got to play through it. And there's going to be guys like Coach Belichick, and there's some veteran, savvy coaches out there that are going to fudge the injury report, and you're not going to know exactly who you're going to get that come on Saturday. But it is what it is. I mean, I say this, they line up, we line up. Whether or not it's in the parking lot at 2 a.m., wherever it may be, we got to go play ball. And I'm just going to say this much. The team that can sustain the mental capabilities of not getting tired at this point in time in the year. Okay, that's what happens to football teams now, is they get physically beat down, but they're more mentally beat down. And the coaches have to do a wonderful job of keeping their teams fresh. I thought Mac Brown always did a great job of keeping his team fresh. And so I think that how you handle your team from a physical and a mental standpoint, how much time, Jim, are we going to be in the meeting room? People talk about how much time are you at practice. Kids get war slick when we're in there and we're keeping them in there for over an hour and you're covering detail. and the kids are getting wore out, so you got to be sharp as a coach, and make sure that these guys are fresh when they're hitting the field on Saturday.
Well, I think the key thing is, and I think Brew just made some great statements there about a coaching staff and your assistant coaches, and that comes about with a head coach for who you hire and who you trust to be around these players. Because let's face it, really, really good coaches are great teachers. They have the ability to go in. They can walk into any setting, whether it be an elementary school, a junior high school, a college setting, and they can walk in and they can teach. Well, teaching is such a critical part of being a good coach. Structuring your meeting and building your meeting and growing it to the point where, as Bruce said, that you don't keep them in there for 2 hours, that you can get what you have to get taught in a limited amount of time, carry it to the field, and maximize every minute that you are on the field. I worked for a guy by the name of David Cutcliffe, and when in the early time that we were at Duke, and Coach Cut was so big on teaching your drills that you're going to do that day and naming your drills, but teaching them in the meeting so that when you got on the practice field, you weren't spending time explaining what you wanted the players to do. You went right to work. You named the drill. This is a key drill, or it was, if you called your key drill Miami, this is Miami. And all the players knew to line up and knew how to run that drill right away. And at our early time, when we first got to Duke, he would time how much activity you had in a 5-minute period and say, Jim, you spent 2 minutes and 30 seconds of your 5 minutes talking. You got to do a better job in the meeting room. So Brew is absolutely correct. This time of year, you have to maintain the teaching schedule, but you have to make it such that the players stay tuned in and they don't lose interest in it, and they keep that edge to continue to go on and play at their maximum on Friday night or Saturday or whenever your game is.
North Carolina pork isn't just delicious, it drives our economy. With more than $11 billion in economic impact and 46,000 plus jobs created, pork is essential to the bold North State. From the farm to your fork, we're raising the bacon, raising the bar. Good for the plate, great for the state. Learn more at ncpork.org. Hey y'all, David Glenn here from the North Carolina Sports Network. When I'm in Wrightsville Beach, my go-to hangout is Jimmy's, the best local bar for sports fans, live music, cold drinks, and coastal vibes. No matter your favorite team, Jimmy's Bar is the place that sports fans from all across the Carolinas can call their home away from home. The next time you visit Jimmy's Bar in Wrightsville Beach, tell them DG sent you.
One guy that's trying to get his team back on track is Dave Doran over at NC State. And as we roll over to Raleigh, NC State returns home this weekend after a rough 53-34 loss up on the banks of the Three Rivers in Pittsburgh. That game raised real questions about defensive consistency and situational football. We talked about that all season long right here on the North Carolina Sports Network. Now, coming up this Saturday night at Carter Finley Stadium, they'll be under the lights. It is homecoming, and NC State has an opportunity to come out and make a statement. They have been putting up yards, but they have lost efficiency. Coach Brewster, emotionally, how important is Saturday night for the Wolfpack, and is this what you would call a must-win game, and pretty much one of the last opportunities this team is going to have to spring a big national type of hello, how are you game?
NC State's got an amazing opportunity. Okay, they're going to go into this football game as a decided underdog. Okay, they're playing a Georgia Tech football team that's outstanding, playing with great confidence. Haynes King is playing as well as any quarterback in America. And what a great opportunity for Coach Dorn and the Wolfpack to create some magic on Saturday night under the lights, homecoming. I mean, you live for these moments, Mike. You live for these opportunities as a football coach and as a team. And I'll tell you what, NC State is capable of winning this football game, of beating Georgia Tech on Saturday night, and they just got to go play. They've got an outstanding quarterback. I mean, heck, everybody's talking about Haynes King. The kid over there at NC State is just, he's outstanding as well. And so I just think that I just hope that NC State rises to this occasion. This is an amazing opportunity and occasion. Go play, man. Let's go.
You have to have a plan of what you're going to do and be able to execute that plan and practice that plan all week. Your players need to be in the correct spot and know which arm that they have to keep free in the run game, and you have to maintain gap integrity, and all those things are so important. And we talk about not giving up explosive plays. If you keep the ball in front of you, it's hard to give up explosive plays. Make the team drive. Make Georgia Tech drive the ball on you. Don't give up big plays. Don't let them throw it over your head. And I know that's cliche-ish again, but at the same time, that's the basis of this game. Sometimes we make this game way too difficult and talk about so many complex things. The key to this game now is still on offense blocking somebody, and on defense it's tackling. You got to be able to tackle the ball carrier. You got to get them on the ground. You can't let them maintain control of the football, and that's what Georgia Tech is going to try to do to the Wolfpack. They're going to do a great job. Georgia Tech does a tremendous job on offense with shifts and motions and various formations and changing formations on the run, which in turn create issues with your gap control because they force you to make multiple adjustments on each and every play. And they create extra gaps with Haynes King running the football. So NC State's got to have a plan that is simple enough, but yet complex enough that they can fit all the Georgia Tech run game and be able to force Georgia Tech into having to beat them throwing the football.
Hey folks, DG here. When I want authentic Italian food served with a side of NC State tradition, I head to Amedio's restaurant. For 60 plus years, Amedio's has been feeding fans, families, and sports legends with unforgettable pasta and pizza, and with Wolfpack pride on every wall. It's an absolute must-stop located right near the NC State campus. Check out the menu, place a catering order, or reserve your table for lunch or dinner today at amediosrestaurant.com. That's AMEDEOS restaurant.com. So you too can experience a true Wolfpack and Raleigh classic.
When their service is over, our veterans may have a new career and life to manage. We're here to help, providing more than $1 million a year in career-building scholarship funds and discounts on every haircut for veterans. Sport Clips Haircuts, supporting veterans everywhere.
Let's move over to Chapel Hill, where North Carolina came inches short in a 17-16 overtime loss this past Saturday to 16th-ranked Virginia. And while the finish was brutal for Tar Heel fans, the defense for Carolina played its best game of the season. 6 sacks, real edge pressure, and some structure that can be built upon. At least a lot of fans are feeling pretty optimistic. And now Carolina turns around on a short week. They'll play on Friday night, a Halloween game up in the Dome at Syracuse, with quarterback questions and postseason math narrowing at Carolina. We're going to dig now into the development and the decisions of what Friday night at Syracuse means for Tar Heel football. Now, this past weekend, it was a game, as we said, decided by inches, but also UNC's best defensive performance of the season. Coach Collins, Kamori House, number 7 for the Tar Heel defense, is a big-time war daddy. I like watching him play. I like his body language and how he engages with the guys on the sidelines, and he's there to lift guys up and also get in their face if they need a little pick-me-up. What are you seeing in his growth from the beginning of this season till now?
This is his second year in this defensive package because he's a transfer from Washington. So it was not all new to him when he walked in. So he has the ability to grow even more than some of the newer players do. He should be the leader of their defense because, Stephen Belichick picked him to personally come in and be this guy by bringing him from Washington. So that's the guy that he should be. And he's doing a nice job of doing that. But I agree with you, Mike, as you made your statement that you just made. That was by far the best defensive game that the Tar Heels have played this year. University of Virginia coming into the game was averaging 40 points a game. And we're talking about a game that went into overtime. That was a 2-point conversion, inches from being a North Carolina victory. So the Carolina defense has made a great deal of progress at this point in time. They continue to tackle well and they didn't give up big plays, explosives. And I know everything that every time we talk about limiting the explosive plays, keeping the ball in front of you. But I'm also going to say this about this Friday night game. And we're going to say this a lot as we work into November. This is another big game because Syracuse is a team that is struggling at this point in time. This is a team that the Tar Heels should be able to go in and play with, and they need to come out of Syracuse, New York on Friday night with a win.
Brew, the quarterback for the Tar Heels, is obviously going to be Gio Lopez. That's who the coaching staff has put their trust into. The receivers starting to play a little bit better. But on Saturday, I had a chance to watch the game against the Wahoos from field level and from the end zone. And you can see so much more from the end zone than you can from a TV view. You can see how the splits are developing, especially where, in this case, the receivers are and where they are not. And a lot of times, there was a tight end named Johnson coming over the middle, and he was wide open. And Gio had already pulled down. He's running ahead of time, or he's throwing into sometimes double and triple coverage. At this point, is North Carolina, do you think, inching closer to experimenting with a Bryce Baker or somebody else? Because it's obviously not going to be Max Johnson, or he'd be getting some looks right now. What is the truth moving forward for Carolina in the pocket?
They got to find a way to win this ball game Friday night, and who is going to give them the best chance to win this game on Friday night. And it's probably, everybody wants to see Bryce. He's a young, talented guy. He's going to be the quarterback of the future at some point for the Tar Heels. But I don't know that we're ready to put him into this situation right here in prime time on Friday night against the Orange Men up at Syracuse. And so, I would stick with Gio, or else, Max Johnson has done some really good things this season. He's taking care of the ball, makes good decisions. That's what they need out of their quarterback. They don't need a guy that's going to take the game over. They need a guy who's going to be fundamentally sound. He's going to take care of the football. No picks, no turnovers. Take care of the football. Let's get the running game going, and the explosive plays will come. I think North Carolina did make some progress against Virginia. I really do.
One of the things that I really enjoyed being able to do was talk to recruits' parents, their brothers and sisters and their mamas and daddies. Man, I tell you, the Carolina recruits that were in town this past weekend, they had a lot of guys. Brew, recruiting as much as anybody. When there is a lot of noise going out in the public, how much of that is a true factor in what is going on the recruiting decision-making tree?
Well, you know what? I mean, you just have to stay extremely positive, but you have to put a good product on the field. Bottom line. Now, what we're seeing, I think, and it's quite obvious, we're seeing that North Carolina has a very strong NIL. They have a very strong, revenue share that's coming in from the conference. I mean, North Carolina has got, because they are involved in recruiting on a national level right now. A lot of 4-star guys. There's some 5-star guys. Those guys do not come cheaply. So my point is they're making a very strong commitment to Coach Belichick. They're putting the money where their mouth is what they're doing, And I'll tell you what, every kid today, sure, they're going to be happy. Hey, I'm going to give you 50,000. I'm going to give you 100,000. I'm going to give you whatever it may be. And sure, that's going to put a smile. They're going to have great things to say. And that's just not North Carolina. That's everywhere in America. Bottom line is, do you have the funds to really push your program to have a successful recruiting season? And I see North Carolina, seems to me, Mike and Jim, like they really do have a very strong financial commitment to winning football games.
Struggling with clutter, calendar chaos, or nonstop notifications? Let Emily Parks at organizeforsuccess.com help you get organized and take control of your time. She's a North Carolina-based productivity pro who empowers busy people like you to work smarter and stress less. Visit organizeforsuccess.com and schedule your free discovery session today. Hey y'all, David Glenn here from the North Carolina Sports Network. When I'm in Wrightsville Beach, my go-to hangout is Jimmy's, the best local bar for sports fans, live music, cold drinks, and coastal vibes. No matter your favorite team, Jimmy's Bar is the place that sports fans from all across the Carolinas can call their home away from home. The next time you visit Jimmy's Bar in Wrightsville Beach, tell them DG sent you.
Let's zoom out now to the coaching carousel of college football, because the story here is not just that coaches are being fired, it's when they're being fired and how much schools are now willing to pay to start over. Brew, you have worked at Texas A&M with then athletics director Scott Woodward under the staff of Jimbo Fisher. What is Woodward like, and does it surprise you that he was willing to go out and pay, anywhere between $30 and $55 million, depending on who you're listening to right now, to get Brian Kelly out of Baton Rouge?
Mike, the bottom line is the pressure to win at places like Texas A&M, LSU are absolutely enormous. They're huge. These donors, they're pouring a bunch of money into the program, into the recruiting process, the NIL. They want to see victories. Make no mistake about it. They demand, and I thought it was interesting. Scott Woodward today said he doesn't ask the head coach to win at LSU. He demands the head coach wins at LSU. And so at both those places right there, I mean, it's a frying pan. It's not a football. It's a frying pan, and a lot of guys can't hold up to it. Too much pressure, and both Mike Elko and Brian Kelly. I mean, they've been around. They're handling the things the way they need to.
Jim, when you're on a staff and the head coach is under fire, how do you maintain order in the very smallest part, and that's your specific position room with your linebackers? How do you keep everybody from, you can tell them not to listen to TV or listen to radio or podcasts or anything like that, but somebody's probably going to say it to them. So what's the best advice that you can give your players when you're going through a tough time and maybe there has been a change already made in the program?
Well, you have to be honest, number one. You have to be straightforward with them, because they're not stupid. They hear what's going on. They're on social media. They know all that stuff. So to go in and be anything but straightforward and honest, and let them know where they stand and where you stand and what your status is in the program is critical. And then if you really do a great job, and you've done a great job and earned their respect throughout the time that you've been coaching them, then a lot of these situations turn into that, hey, we're gonna have each other's back. We're gonna go prove to these people out here that we have the ability to win. A little bit of that is going on at a couple of places right now that have already been fired. Virginia Tech has won a couple of games since that situation happened. UCLA struggled this weekend against a top-ranked Indiana team, but they've won 3 games since they made a change out there. So there are lots of chemistry and the ability to respect each other and treat each other with a great amount of dignity will be critical in these firing situations when you've got an interim coach moving in.
What's the best job that's open right now in college football?
I've coached with Mac Brown and Jimbo Fisher, and they've both been at a place. They've been at LSU, and I've been with three different SEC teams and have played in Baton Rouge on a Saturday night, and the environment and I'll just tell you guys, with the money that's in the state of Louisiana, the players that are in the state of Louisiana, the recruiting ability. And you're the only show in town, Mike. I truly believe that LSU is the best job in America. I truly believe that, there's no reason for it not to be. LSU should I think year in and year out be in the hunt for a national title. You're going to recruit at an extremely high level, and you're really not competing against anybody else in the state. And Mike, I'm telling you, I've recruited Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, all those. They can, LSU can reach out and go get a national five-star player. I just really feel very, very strongly that under the right direction, under the right leadership, that LSU is the place to be, is a big time opportunity.
I mean, they have history on their side. They have a great recruiting base. And I too have been to Baton Rouge on a Saturday night and played there. And it's a tremendous atmosphere. I get cold chills just thinking about going into that atmosphere, walking out of your dressing room, and there is a visiting coach, and there sits Mike the Tiger right outside your dressing room right now, and they're poking him, and he's growling at you all over the place. And I mean, the atmosphere is unbelievable. But I'm going to give you a little stat here about LSU. As I said earlier, has great history. The prior three coaches, and their names were Nick Saban, Les Miles, and Ed Ogeron. Guess what they all three did within 4 years of being there? They all put that natty ring on their finger. So don't think that the history is not there to be great again. And I'm going to tell you what, down in the Bayou, Brew, they'll spend some money to get a player. They were buying them long before it became legal. So don't think that they don't have plenty of money to go buy them now.
And I'm going to tell you this, Mike. Let me just throw this at you, bud. And this is big. This is good stuff. Okay. If I'm Scott Woodward, if I'm at LSU, who's my first phone call? Who am I going? I'm not going to, Lane Kiffin. He's there's a lot of talk. I'm going to call Coach Saban. I'm going to make him tell me no. He knows what's happening. Miss Terry's been to Baton Rouge. She likes it there. And I'm just going to tell you guys, how exciting would that be for college football if Coach Saban were to come back and be the head football coach for the LSU Tigers?
What's the percentage chance that happened?
You know what? Probably not good, Mike. But I'm going to tell you what, I'd try like hell. I mean, holy crap. I would recruit him like a 5-star, like a 10-star, huh, Jim?
I would make him say no. And then I'd make it too difficult for him to say no, but Miss Terry may say no. But I'd give him the opportunity. I'll tell you that.
Okay, Mike, so the salaries right now that they're talking about, the buyouts, all the things, the money involved in college football right now is so crazy. It's so, I mean, we got common $10 million now for a season for a head football coach. And for a guy like Coach Saban, obviously it'd be considerably higher. But I'll tell you what now, that money's strong and it'll woo you.
So you guys agree LSU is the best open job right now. What job out there are people saying is a good job, but you think it might be a trap job, Tim Brewster?
I had Florida in my mind, but I was hesitant there because I think Florida is a top 5 job in America.
Okay.
I think Florida is a really, really good job. Go ahead, Jim.
The question about what is a trap job, the trap jobs out there right now, maybe if you looked at one, from the people on the outside, are going to probably say that UCLA could be a great job. Well, UCLA may be the trap job out there.
Right.
But I'm going to go back to what Brew is saying also with this. And maybe I'm way off base on this one. I'm going to call the Florida job the sleeper job out there.
There you go.
You know, that's what I'm going to call Florida, because Florida has great history, but it's new. Well, let me say this. Florida's history is a little bit sketchy. It was great with Steve Spurrier, and it was really, really good with Urban Meyer. But other than that, it's been fairly mediocre, and that's why I call it a sleeper. The last four head coaches have not been very successful there, even though Brew was there with Dan Mullen, who won a lot of games there and won 10 games, but it still wasn't good enough. Florida's a difficult job. So right now, I do consider Florida a sleeper job. They've got great facilities, great fan base. It's not a patient fan base, I can tell you that. It's no different than that LSU fan base. If you go there, you better win, and you better win quick. But you've got great recruiting in the state of Florida. You've got a great facilities. They're getting ready to spend like $500 million on redoing the stadium. So I think Florida is the sleeper job.
I think Jim hit on something right there with UCLA. I'm very good friends with Mick Cronin, was part of the group that hired him at Cincinnati when he came back to be the Bearcats basketball coach. And since he's been at UCLA, he's been to Final Fours and this and that and the other, but he'll tell you straight up, and I don't think he's been too shy about sharing this. They don't have the resources to win at UCLA. And sometimes, I mean, we all love the Rose Bowl, and I know you enjoy being the captain of the Illinois team that played in the Rose Bowl back in the early 80s. But do you think that playing games that far off campus is now starting to catch up in some way, form, or fashion with UCLA? Is that necessarily still, I mean, it's a beautiful place, everybody loves it, but it's 102,000 people. And in LA, there's a lot of stuff to do other than go watch the Bruins play Big Ten football against rivals that there really are no histories with. Could you see how that would be a trap job in college football, UCLA?
A trap job is a perfect way of describing it. You realize, guys, that they don't even have a 100-yard practice field? Ooh. They don't even have a 100-yard practice field. They got a 60-yard practice field. I felt so bad for Deshaun Foster. I recruited Deshaun out of high school. I mean, you know, he's busting his tail trying to make something happen at his alma mater. And it's a tough go. I played at Colorado. We went and played UCLA out there when Chip Kelly was the head coach. And I'm going to tell you what, Mike, just what you're saying. I think there was 25, 30,000 people at the game. It's a night game. I mean, hell, there's nobody there. There's nobody there. I mean, when you're talking about Friday night, Saturday in LA, you're going to go to the beach. You're going to all these different things that you can do. Or you can go sit in the Rose Bowl. And again, it being so far from campus it's hard. It was hard. Well, I was at Minnesota. Heck, our kids had to go 10 miles across the river to the Metrodome, and I mean, heck, they didn't want to do it.
Right.
And so there's a lot of obstacles there. Most importantly, it's money, Mike. And golly, you'd think that they'd be able to come up with, some really good money at UCLA, at least put them in a situation to have a chance to win.
With Vanderbilt and Clark Lee having success, could Stanford and working for general manager Andrew Luck be considered a sleeper job that could maybe get back to the days of Ty Willingham and what he had rolling out there back when Luck was playing for the Cardinal?
Mike, that's a great question with Stanford. Stanford does have some history, but I think it's going to be very difficult to turn that program around and point it in a direction that it needs to go. They've got good people there with Andrew Luck and making the decisions. But I would tend to call it more, again, a trap job more than a sleeper job.
Need insurance? Go to a team that's got your back. The Lawson Insurance Group, run by the Lawson brothers, right here in Raleigh. They deliver real service, smart protection, and the kind of trust that's hard to find these days. Find them online by searching Lawson Insurance Group. That's Lawson, Lawson Insurance Group, and tell them DG sent you. Looking for the best food in Wrightsville Beach? Check out King Neptune Restaurant, owned by our friends Jimmy and Keaton Galeese. With fresh seafood, tasty steaks, creative cocktails, and the perfect beachside vibe, it's gotta be on your must-visit list. Whether you're grabbing a weekend lunch or brunch, enjoying dinner and drinks, or catching up with friends at the bar, King Neptune is the place to be. That's King Neptune Restaurant in Wrightsville Beach.
It's called 10-Second Drill, and we will look ahead at some games coming up here in the Big Four and get both Coach Brew and Coach Collins to give us their summation in 10 seconds or less. Let's start out with the first game of the weekend. It'll happen up in the JMA Dome in the Swamp on Halloween night. North Carolina and Syracuse, 7:30 on ESPN. This is a response game for the Tar Heels after coming up just short against Cal and against UVA. How does Carolina channel that emotion on a short week? Let's start it out with Coach Tim Brewster up and to the left.
They're going to create a heck of an environment on Friday night there in the Carrier Dome. Been there. Fran Brown is going to have a huge chip on his shoulder. He's going to have his team ready to play. Big game for the Tar Heels. You know, bow your neck, let's go. But I think it's going to be a Syracuse victory.
Well, I'm going to take the opposite side of that. I'm going to take the Tar Heels in this one because the Orangemen have been struggling on offense, and the Carolina defense is starting to come into its own. So I think the Tar Heel defense will go play well, and I believe if the Carolina offense can score 24 points, that they will win the game, and I'm picking them to do that.
I'm picking Carolina. No turnovers. They forced 2 turnovers, and they're up by double digits as the clock moves from the third to the fourth quarter, and it's a walk away. Carolina gets a big win out there. I don't know. I felt good this past weekend. Felt like Carolina was going to pull out the win. They came up just about an inch short. Let's see if they can do it up in the Swamp on Friday night. Next up, we're at high noon. Wake Forest at Florida State. Tim, you know Doak Campbell Stadium. What do you think about this one for the Deacs in that heavyweight environment down in the state capital of the Sunshine State?
This is a big time game, and I think the Seminoles got to find a way to win it. It's going to be tough. It's going to be close. I think it's a last possession game. I think it's 20-17 Seminoles.
I'm going to pick the Seminoles. I think it'll be a defensive game now because I think the Wake defense is good enough to hang in there. A lot of the game will depend on whether the Wake offense can get going and score some points, but I'm going to go with the Seminoles in a close one.
In a noon game down in Death Valley North, it is Duke on the road against Clemson. This is about control at the line of scrimmage. Can Duke protect long enough to sustain drives at Death Valley under quarterback Darian Mensah? First up, we'll go to the one, the only Jim Collins. What do you think about Duke at Clemson?
Well, again, Mike and Brew, we keep saying that this is another critical game for both teams. And again, this time of year, they become very difficult games to win, and you get challenged on the road. So, opposite of the way the SEC was last week, I'm going to go with the Tigers at home. They've had a week off to improve and to get healthy. So I think it'll be tough for the Blue Devils to go into Tiger Stadium and get a big win. So I'm picking Clemson.
I think Manny Diaz has done a tremendous job, him and his staff. They've got a football team. They've got a quarterback that's got a chance to lead them to victory at one of the toughest places in the country to play. Okay, down there in Death Valley at Clemson, and so I've been voting for them all year. I'm going to stick with those Dukies and say, in a tight one, they're going to beat the Tigers.
And our final game of the weekend, it is Saturday night, homecoming at Carter Finley Stadium. North Carolina State coming out of their very tough road loss last week at Pitt at home with a great opportunity against a top 10 team in Georgia Tech. This is an absolute must win for Dave Doran and NC State. Guys, whoever wants to take this one first, can the Wolfies howl at the moon and get Georgia Tech maybe not at their best and come out with that big win over the Yellow Jackets?
The Wolfpack has to play at the top of their game in all three phases. And if you go back and you analyze the Wolfpack season, they played well on defense at times. They played well on offense at times. The kicking game has been a little bit sporadic. The Wolfpack has 9 of their 22 defensive players, and I heard this from Coach Doran today, are injured. So they're a beat up defensive football team. If they have to go in and stop the run, I think Georgia Tech and Brent Key have done a tremendous job. And I think they'll continue to do a tremendous job. I think Georgia Tech will come in and spoil homecoming.
This has been Bold North State Football Daily, an exclusive presentation of the North Carolina Sports Network. Make sure you follow us on social media at the NC Sports Net, and check out our website that is wall-to-wall coverage of North Carolina sports at ncsportsnetwork.com. Our foundational partner is the North Carolina Pork Council, raising the bacon, raising the bar. Telling the stories of the bold North State, this is the North Carolina Sports Network.